drink it in, drink it in, drink it in, man.
It is picked up by the Lions, coming back right side 25, picks up a block at the 30, it's at the 40.
Drink it in, drink it in. Drink it in, drink it in, drink it in, man.
Rolls to the right, Stafford throws deep, got a man out there, end zone, caught, touchdown, Detroit Lions, Marvin Jones! Stafford!
Drink it in, drink it in.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions! Cornbread!
Drink it in, drink it in, drink it in, man.
Welcome everybody to the Detroit Koolaid. It's Friday. This is Griff coming at you today. It's been a beautiful week. The sun is out, it's shining, and it looks like summer all over the place. It's supposed to be 90 degrees again this weekend. People are out in their pools. Little kids are running through sprinklers outside. Other people are being able to go back out to restaurants. They are minding the social distancing, but it looks like life is sort of getting back to normal around here, which is good. Maybe we can get back into the swing of things, and maybe football will be back on track. Now, I realize there's a lot of stuff still going on. Teams are like trying to get their players, in to do some workouts, things like that. And it did come down earlier this week that a few of the Cowboys and Texans players had tested positive for COVID. So I'm not quite for sure. It's still kind of a little murky here and there. If it still means that they're positive, or if they tested positive and they had the antibodies. Because once again, if you have the antibodies, it doesn't necessarily mean that you did have COVID. Is from what I've read and heard. But one of the players that was mentioned was Zeke Elliott. I realize this isn't Lions, but Zeke Elliott had it. He went on Twitter. He wasn't happy with Roger Goodell. He thought he named him when Goodell mentioned something about it, but Goodell didn't. So obviously Zeke had it. So it just kind of makes me wonder how other players on other teams and other organizations may handle it if they try to slow down bringing players back in for workouts. And it still might be one of those things where they still do a lot of Zoom meetings, stuff like that, try to go over things, cover things with the players on the teams. But I think this could be a definite setback for getting some players into the facilities to do at least maybe some off-season training, meeting with their coach, position coaches, head coach, other people in the organization. It could be some of the players are like okay with it, they're going to chance it. Other players may be, we're not going to chance it at all. I'm worried about it. I'm not going to come around until maybe there's a vaccine that's been produced for it. So it just makes me wonder where, this is going to take everything. It's going to push back the start, of the NFL anymore. There was rumor that actually the preseason was going to go down from 4 games to 3 games. That may be true. It's what I heard, I think, last week, but I haven't really heard anything on that lately. So if they do go down to 3 games in the preseason, if this happens where more and more players are testing positive, it may go down from 3 to 2. I don't know. It all depends. I'm sure the organization, the head coaches, the coaching staffs are going to have their mind saying, we have so many players in camp. We need, I don't want to say as many games as possible, but at least a number of games to get a good look at everybody that's in camp to put in a quality, effective team out there on the field. So once again, the Houston players, Dallas players, please take care of yourselves, take care of your family, and hopefully everything, works out for the best and teams can once again get back into the facilities and be able to get football started on time, because I know we're all looking forward to that. So another thing I want to touch base with here really quick, I know one of my harps, and Derek's one of Derek's, he can kind of piggyback that when I kind of go off on saying how teams get more respect than the Lions and even Lions players. I know a couple weeks ago we brought up top 100 players, how none of the Lions players were on it. Thank you, Pete Briscoe. But somebody else at CBS Sports, his name's Sean Wagner McHugh, something like that. He did his top 10 quarterback rankings this year, and we believe going into the year, and he actually had Matt Stafford at number 7. He actually had Matt Stafford in front of Ben Roethlisberger, better than Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady. Those guys didn't even make the top 10. So I have to hand it to him. I mean, I don't want to say going out on a limb, but maybe the guy does recognize some talent. I know here in Detroit, Matt Stafford has been a real, I guess, polar for fans. Either people love him or people just want to run him out of town and they want to look for the best thing, saying, hey, look at his record against winning teams, no playoff wins, and they're just ready to scrap him and move on to somebody else. I know here on the Koolaid Cast, me and Derek both really like him. We want to stick with him. We think he can win here. You're just getting the talent around him. And when I read that he was higher than Aaron Rodgers, actually, I can see Ben Roethlisberger. He was hurt last year. He was kind of on the downside of his career. Tom Brady's moving teams, moving organizations and teams. He's getting new talent. And even though he does have some great pieces around him at wide receiver, running back, tight end, I mean, he still is learning a new system. And, he is. He's older, okay? So I can, putting Matt Stafford up there in front of those guys, I understood it. Then Aaron Rodgers, I know when I did my division rankings of positions, I had Aaron Rodgers the best quarterback in the division. But going through the rest of the players, I could see why he would think, Matt Stafford, you could have a better year than him. I mean, once again, look at the position players around him. I mean, Aaron Rodgers wasn't happy what the Packers did in the draft. They have Davante Adams. Myself, I think Davante Adams was good, but I think he's a little overrated. I think he gets a lot more love for being on the Packers than, say, I think Davante Adams would just, for lack of a better term, I think he would just kind of be an average wide receiver if he was on the Washington Redskins or, say, the Chargers or something like that. He just wouldn't get noticed. But he's on the Packers. I think he gets more pub. So saying that Matt Stafford's going to have a better year than Aaron Rodgers, I can definitely see that. And, it's happy. I was kind of pleased. I mean, finally, somebody on the Lions getting a little pub. I mean, it just never seems to happen around here. And we're always kind of bashing writers, national writers, even some local writers that always seem to be down and out on this team. But Mr. Wagner McCaw, or however you pronounce his name, I apologize there. He also put that he could be, have a career year. Now, career year, Matt Stafford, I mean, we've talked about it before. He's thrown a lot of yards. He's thrown for a lot of yards in prior years. A lot of games where he's had a lot of comeback victories. And it's, he has got the moniker here with some fans as Pad Stafford, because all of his stats come from when the team's down by 21 points in the fourth quarter, and he's just throwing all these yards and teams don't care. They're just letting him, complete all these passes. But still, I mean, at least he's completing the passes. So I really can't complain about that. So having a career year there, I don't know if he means with overall, if it's just by sheer numbers, because I still believe that the Lions, Matt Patricia, Darrell Bevell, want to have a balanced attack on offense and look like what they're trying to do with the running game. And, they do have a lot of, good weapons, at wide receiver. Hawkinson, could come into his own this year at tight end, take a big step forward. Not for sure on that. But I don't know if he's going to throw for just an awesome amount of yards. I mean, it could be a career year just based on maybe completion percentage, and W's for the team, leading to victories for the team. It could be that more so than just, throwing up a whole bunch of, yards, bunch of touchdowns, dropping his interceptions. It seems like Stafford has a lot more interceptions. Obviously, most quarterbacks do when they're just out zinging the ball around all over the field. It's part of that thing I really like about Matt Stafford is that gunslinger mentality, fitting the ball in tight windows, taking chances here and there. But, for all the good times he has, passes and he's made like that, he can have the ones that leaves you scratching your head, what are you doing? But still, I do believe that he is poised for a big year with the weapons that he has, being in the second year in this offense, retooling the offensive line a little bit, and the weapons that he has here. I mean, he seems to have a good connection with Danny Amendola, which is good. Galladay is coming into his own. Marvin Jones proven, veteran wide receiver. Hawkinson hoping to take a big leap, and then an improved running game. I just don't know if he's going to be thrown for 4,800 yards and 45 touchdowns. That just doesn't seem like the offense that Bevell and Patricia are looking for here in Detroit. But still, rating him as the 7th best QB top, in the league, going into this year, poised for a career year. I can see that, so I definitely agree. I'm totally going to agree with what Mr. Sean Wagner, McCaw, McCough, or however you pronounce it, from CBS Sports, how we put it. So, little kudos here for us fans in Detroit. Something we can hang our hat on, when football starts, and we can look at the this year's Detroit Lions, and once again, drink the Kool-Aid, hoping for a big year out of these guys when football does start. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take a pause for the cause, pay a couple bills, and I'll be right back, and we'll talk a little more football. Welcome back, everybody, to the Detroit Kool-Aid. Once again, this is just Mike coming at you here on this Friday. Sitting there at the commercial break, I did realize that I forgot to mention it. TGIF, thank God it's Friday. So I do apologize for that and want to slip it in there. Didn't forget about it. Obviously, I forgot about it early, but I did not forget about it at one point in the show. So a few episodes ago, I mentioned, I brought it up, a little earlier, actually, in this episode, how I had put all the Lions players on offense against the other divisional teams and kind of rated each section and came out with who relatively had the best position in each spot. So I figured with this episode I would try that on defense as well, and we kind of break it down that way, because once again we all know how good the offense can be and how many question marks there can be on this Detroit Lions defense. I realize other teams have question marks as well, but still, I think just kind of matching them up, going back and forth between every little area, we can kind of maybe see what we got there. So once again, let's just do this. We'll just jump right into it. We're going to start with we're always going to start in the trenches here. Let's start with the defensive line. Once again, the Lions signed Danny Shelton. They brought Nick Williams. They drafted Penasini. Hands coming back. They still got Trey Flowers. Romeo Okwara was there. Julian Okwara might be like that outside linebacker, or maybe the defensive end, hand in the dirt, can play kind of those. Same with Austin Bryant, so they're around here. Once again, looking for big things, out of the defensive line. Still seems to me that they're missing that proven pass rusher, the guy that offenses have to circle and always account for. Trey Flowers really came on at the end of last year. Definitely improved his play from the beginning part of the year, and Romeo Okwara seemed to take a step back from the year before. So I don't know if, to me, either one of those guys, they're nice players. Trey Flowers is better than Okwara, but once again, I'm always looking for that, that Reggie White type defensive end. I'm always looking for that guy, that Richard Dent, the guy that puts the fear in the offensive coordinators and the offensive tackles that they're going against, knowing that they might have to try to get out of their stance a little quicker to hold their block. Your offensive coordinators, need to keep the tight end in or have the running back chip, something like that on those guys. And it just doesn't seem like Flowers and Okwara are that type of guy. But Flowers is, he's above average. And Okwara's solid, and Hands coming back, and we all know what he can do moving around. But other teams, let's just hop over to the Vikings. Defensive tackles, they got Traylon Holmes, Jaleel Johnson, David Moa, I believe he's a rookie this year. Defensive ends, they seem to have lost a bit on the defensive ends. That from it seems like they've had in the past where they've really got after the Lions, but they still have Daniil Hunter, who seems to have good games against the Lions. Was it Ifedi Ogdebo? And I know Derek's going to slaughter me for that because he's always really good at pronouncing those names. But he's another defensive end, a few years in from Northwestern. And, hey, former Lion Anthony Zettle's on that team. So I think, back and forth, if you're looking at it, I think Daniil Hunter's probably the best defensive end out of the ones I named. But I think the Lions offense, the Lions defensive line, and the Vikings defensive line is pretty on par with each other. I don't think the Vikings defensive line seems like in the past has really dominated them. I don't think they're that much better or better at all than the Lions. Now the Bears, they have at defense, they got guys like Eddie Goldman, who's I believe he's really good. John Jenkins down there, also on the defensive line. Guys on the end like Akeem Hicks and Brent Urban. I think Eddie Goldman, Akeem Hicks, John Jenkins, I believe I think those guys are better than the Lions and the Vikings. Once again, that's just me. Other people may feel a little different. But once again, if you feel different, hit me up on Twitter at Grifka DKC. That's at Grifka DKC. Feel free to touch base if you guys disagree with any of my takes. I would love to touch base with you guys and discuss it. But I think the Bears, they do have I don't think it's not a great offensive line, but it's above average. I think it's really, really good, and I think it's better than the Vikings and the Lions. Now, for the Packers, their biggest guy down there is going to be Kenny Clark. But they have, the Montravius Adams down there as well. Dean Lauer, he's another guy who's pretty young. Travion Hester, I believe, he's another guy, down there, has some decent games, but I don't think the Packers defensive tackles. I mean, they generally run a 3-4, so those guys are just kind of space eaters, not going to do a whole lot. I personally think I think the Bears, Lions, and Vikings are better than those guys right there. Their defensive tackles and defensive ends are better than the Packers. So if you're looking at defensive lines, I would probably rate the Bears as the top one. I don't want to say a wash, but since I'm a homer, I'm going to take the Lions at number 2, Vikings at number 3, and the Packers at number 4. So that's not terrible, but I think the Lions and Vikings are really, really close right there, and the Packers, I think once again, I think it's one of those teams that get a lot of love because they're Green Bay. So let's move on to the linebackers. We all know the linebackers. Detroit, they got Collins, Jones, Davis, Tavai, Sign Ragland. Reeves Maven's kind of sitting out there. We really don't know what his position will be on the team. If he might be one of those guys where he's not on the team, but I've always liked him, always liked his speed. I wish they would use him a little better than what they do. But once again, it's Matt Patricia's defense. He's going to run what he wants to run. Let's hop over to the Vikings again. They got at linebacker, they got Anthony Barr, Eric Kendricks, Ben Gideon, former Michigan Wolverine, Cameron Smith's there, a few other guys. But I really like Kendricks and Anthony Barr. I think they're damn good. So those are linebackers. It just seems you always got to really watch when they're on. They seem to make plays. They're ball hawks like making picks, but they seem to be there, sticking their nose in there, making the tackles. And I like those guys. I really like Kendricks and Barr. I mean, Gideon, he's not bad. He's one of those meat and potatoes guys right there. Cameron Smith, he's average. He's not that great, but like I said, that's why he's 4th. I have him right there. Linebackers for the Bears, I mean, we all know Khalil Mack, hands down, probably the best linebacker in the division. And once again, he's one of those guys, defense or offense coordinators always have to see where he's on the field, where he's lining up, account for him. That guy's a playmaker. He's a beast. And I know we talked about it. The Bears seem to have mortgaged their future, to get him, and then they were looking to trade him last year simply because where they were at with salary cap, picks, and me and Derek debated it and back and forth, and he thought, Khalil Mack eventually he became an albatross. He's an albatross. His contract is on that team, but still, the guy's a beast. I mean, he's worth every penny that he is getting right now. They also got Danny Trevathan, Bekevius Mingo, Roquan Smith, and the old widely veteran Robert Griffin's on that team. Once again, that's a damn good linebacking core. It's if you're comparing like their defensive line to their linebackers, the Bears linebackers are head and shoulders above their defensive line. That's just a really good. That's just a damn good unit. I mean, that is one that they make plays. I mean, they do. They make plays. That's a linebacking core you really, really gotta like. The Packers now, they got, I know they had those couple free agent signings last year, and they seemed to do pretty well, running that 3-4 defense, both the guys that could get to the quarterback. The Smith brothers, Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith. And it's probably their 2 most potent names. They also got Christian Kirksey there at the linebacker position. And once again, one of Derek's favorite players coming out of the University of Michigan, Rashawn Gary. I know Derek was a big fan of him, and he really, really liked him. So, I don't know, I think he even kind of wishes he was on the Lions. But, nope, he's rookie last year, made not a really big splash on that team. Maybe he's one of those guys that the Packers are thinking that he can have a breakout year in his second year. But Preston Smith, Zadarius Smith, he's perfect for those 2 guys are perfect for what the Packers run. They do. They both get to the quarterback. I mean, it's not like I mean, they're not Lawrence Taylor out there. I mean, they're not that good. but they're good. I mean, I'm not going to front on that. They are good, but there are guys that they had pretty decent games against the Lions last year. So Christian Kirksey, not that great. Rashawn Gary was a rookie, didn't really show a whole lot. But if I'm going to go through and have to rate all these linebacking cores against each other, I'm going to say the Bears have the best one. I'm going to go with probably, oh, jeez. Gosh, I'll have to go with the Packers number 2. And then, oh gosh, I'm going to go with the Vikings at number 3 and the Lions at number 4. I'm sure a lot of people on here probably go, oh, that's just Griff being Griff. But, I mean, really kind of look at it and look who's on the team. And, I mean, I know me and Derek have talked about it. And, I mean, we're hoping Jamie Collins has the year that we're expecting, what Matt Patricia's expecting him to have, what he's coming in to do. I mean, we all know what Christian Jones is. Derek, kind of likes him. He's PFF has him rated, not that bad. Which once again, I think he's a totem pole. Jared Davis, everybody knows how I feel about Davis. Tavai, he may become that leader of the linebacking core, but once again, he does have his limitations. Ragland, another big guy, slow feet. Jalen Reeves-Maybin, he could do something, but I think right now he's just kind of in the wrong system. I think for maybe him to even, kind of produce what you're expecting, he may have to go to another team, where they have him do a little more moving, as opposed to what the Lions have him do. But I mean, I still like Reeves-Maybin, but still, I mean, once again, I don't think he can really front on the Bears linebacking core. I mean, that's probably the best one in the division. Packers number 2. I'll go with the Vikings 3 and then the Lions 4. Now let's go to the defensive backfield here. And this seems to be a spot where once again, the Lions have seemed to make some additions to improve themselves. I mean, we all know they went out and signed Desmond Trufant. They still got Coleman back there, playing the nickel. The big signing last year, they traded away Darius Slay, my boy, big play, and they got Jeff Okudah. They still have AO back there. They have a few other guys that Derek's mentioned in the past. We've talked about kind of like these special teamers. McCray's back there, Roberts back there, Diversion. Mike Ford, the Wind Sox back there. They just I know Derek's mentioned it before. You can never have too many defensive backs, which I agree with. This is a passing league, but once again, it's one of those things where you have the quality. At safety, I mean, Tracy Walker's back there. Harmon, they brought him in. They still got Will Harris. They signed Kurse. He's back there as well. Killebrew, he's kind of a man without a position. He seems like a straight special teamer right now. But still, the Lions do have a little bit of talent there. I mean, I'm not going to say that these guys are terrible. If Okudah is as good as his tape showed, how well he played at Ohio State, not having any pass interference penalties. I know some people will be like, well, it's Ohio State, they get calls, So still, I mean, that's still kind of impressive to be able to do that. Hopefully that translates well to the pros. And I know at first he's going to have to learn the tape, learn guys that he's going against their moves, so he's not biting on the first move of a double move route, something like that. There's going to be a little bit of learning curve, but I think he's good enough to make up for that relatively quickly. So I really do like the Lions defensive backs. I mean, Trufant, he's solid cornerback safety. I know last year he didn't have, wasn't that great of a year for the Atlanta Falcons. But still, I mean, I like what he can do. And hopefully Coleman was really up and down last year. There were some games he just looked really, really good. And then some games you're just kind of scratching your head. But still, I like what this defensive backfield brings, for the Lions. And with, Walker, coming into his own. Harmon, I think that guy could be a stud. Harris, still, second year. Hopefully he takes a jump forward. He still has a few things to clean up in his play. But still, I mean, these guys, this defensive backfield could be the strong suit for the Lions defense this year. Let's go over to the Vikings here, and their cornerbacks, and guys like Mike Hughes, Mark Fields, Neville Clark, he's I believe a young rookie, he's there. Holton Hill, he's another guy who has a little bit of playing time. They've lost a few players, not lost, they've chosen to let a few players walk that have been there, and they're trying to get them with a lot younger talent. The Vikings are one of those teams that do have a lot of young cornerbacks, first, second year guys, some rookies on that team that they're going to expect to contribute. Safety-wise, Harrison Smith and Anthony Harris. Once again, not going to say anything. I can't front on those guys. Those guys are damn good. They just are. I mean, they may be the best safeties in the division 1 and 2. I've always liked Harrison Smith. I liked him coming out of college, out of Notre Dame. Anthony Harris, he's really good. So those two could probably be the best two corner or safeties in the division on the same team. So their defensive backfield, those guys are obviously going to be the stalwarts back there. Those guys leading those young cornerbacks, trying to get them in the right position, really being the vocal leaders of those the defensive backfield there. As for the Bears, they got Kyle Fuller. Once again, Kyle Fuller, he's not Deion Sanders, but he's a good cornerback. He is. I mean, once again, I'm not going to lie. I'm not a huge Bears fan, but Kyle Fuller, he's a good cornerback. He is. He's better than solid, but he's not exceptional. He's not great. They got Buster Screen on the team, Deion Bush. They also went out and signed Artie Burns, because I was saying Boo Earns. Artie Burns, he was supposed to be a big time coming out of the University of Miami. Pittsburgh signed him, but he really didn't. He really didn't show anything there, which is strange, because Pittsburgh's usually pretty good about developing defensive backs and especially cornerbacks. The litany of cornerbacks they've had over the course of their franchise. And Artie Burns, that guy's a big, rangy guy. He had some speed, but gosh, that guy, you could burn him on a double move. That guy just always bit on the first one. So I'm not quite for sure what they're expecting out of him in Chicago. But as for their safeties, got Tayshaun Gibson back there, Eddie Jackson. Once again, Eddie Jackson, he's another one of those. He's really good safety. He's not great, not exceptional, but he's really, really good. I mean, I think Harrison Smith and Anthony Harris are better than him, but still, Eddie Jackson, he's another one of those safeties. He just seems to have a nose for the ball. He seems to make plays. So it's one of those guys that the Lions offensive coordinator really needs to watch for. I mean, he's not going to come in on safety blitzes and knock you out. He's not even really that headhunting type safety, the Ronnie Lott, the Dennis Smith type, safety where you really got to watch yourself. But he's good. He really is. And then for the Packers, they got Redmond back there, Adrian Amos, and then Darnell Savage is back there as well, young safety out of the University of Maryland. He's back there. Adrian Amos is probably the best one there. He's one of those guys. I think he gets. Once again, I think he's on the Packers. He gets a lot of pub, a lot of love. I mean, he's on TV, so a lot of people see him, and they think he's he's just, oh my gosh, he's so great. It's like, he's decent, okay. He's not better than Harrison Smith, Anthony Harris, or Jackson, but he's good. And heck, I would even put Harmon better than Adrian Amos. And Walker, if he takes a leap this year, could be better than Adrian Amos as well. But if you're kind of looking at everything overall to see where everybody's kind of stacked up on this team, and for the Lions against every other one, if you just want to go, let's just do this way. Let's just go cornerbacks first. I'm sorry, I missed the Packers cornerbacks. They got Kevin King is back there, Josh Jackson back there, Jair Alexander's back there. Now, once again, I mentioned this stat on an earlier episode that they were called for like 2 pass interference plays all year. I mean, really? I mean, come on. Nobody is that clean. I mean, I'm all for letting defensive backs play, but for some of the ticky-tack stuff that gets called in games that we've seen as Lions fans, to say like that cornerbacks got called for 2 pass interference plays all year, come on, really? I mean, tell me something's not up with that. That makes no sense to me. I mean, there's guys that can play, but gosh, I think even Deion Sanders got called for more than that. And that guy's creme de la creme, best of the best. Charles Woodson, another one, creme de la creme, best of the best. And those guys got called for pass interference. It's like, give me a break. And these guys get called for 2 all year. I mean, that's got to be the most unbelievable stat around. So if if I'm going through this actually, looking at this, based on who's on the team, who's coming up, I think the cornerbacks in this division, I mean, there's good ones, but there's not great ones. There's nothing that you're really like, this guy's locking down half the field. You can't throw his way. This guy's picking the ball off. There's just a lot of, average to average to above average cornerback tandems or teams in this division. So if I'm going to look at this right here and say who's got the best one, geez, oh God, I really like what the Lions have back there. I know everybody's going to laugh about that and say, like, well, look at all the yards they gave up last year. Coleman's in the system his second year. Okuda might have a little bit of learning curve. Trufant, he's not Darius Slay, but he's solid. The Bears got Kyle Fuller, and like I said, he's the best, but Buster Screen ain't that great. Deion Bush, he's okay. Artie Burns, that guy was a washout in Pittsburgh. We all know the Packers numbers going to be like, well, look at their stats, and I know Derek harps on me. Well, look at the stats. You're just a stat guy. No way does any cornerback team play that clean. It doesn't happen. But still, they're better than the Bears, and I think they're a lot better than the Vikings. So I got to put the Packers at the number two cornerbacks in the division. I'll put the Bears third and the Vikings fourth. Safety-wise, hands down, it's the Vikings. I mean, I think it's the best tandem back there. I don't even care who their third or fourth guys are. It's like those guys, Smith and Harris, they play. I mean, they might miss a game here and there, but these guys are not off injured. They're not out for most of the year. Those guys are playmakers, and I really, really like them. After that, I'm probably going to go with, between Harmon and Jackson, Walker, Gibson. Oh, jeez. Yeah, I'm going to go and talk myself into it. I really like the Lions on this one as well. I'm going to go with them with the second best safety. The Bears at number 3, and then the Packers at number 4. I've said this before, and I say it again. A few years ago? I always used to say this to Derek, and I said this to other people. I mean, because the Vikings just seem to have the dominant defense in the division, and the Packers had the dominant offense. It's like if you could take the Packers offense and match it with the Vikings defense, that would just be one dominant team. But it seems in the last couple of years, the Vikings defense has really fallen off. The Packers offense, was really falling off. And I think, honestly, this year, I mean, if you took the Lions offense and maybe matched it with, I mean, people are going to say, well, what about the Lions defense? Well, I think their weak spot is the linebackers. And I think it is. I mean, if you took the Bears front seven, I really like the Bears front seven, breaking this stuff down. And they do. I think the Bears front seven is head and shoulders above every other team in this division. Once again, if you disagree with me, hit me up on Twitter at GrifkaDKC. Once again, that's at Grifka, GrifkaDKC. And tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me, Derek does it all the time, and it's okay. But it's nice to have, a debate with, people and what they think is different. But once again, just kind of running through everything the way I have broken down, much like I did with the offense. I believe that defensive line-wise, the Bears have the best one in the division. I think the Lions have number 2. The Vikings have number 3. And the Packers have number 4. Linebacking cores, once again, I really like the Bears. Number 2, I'm going to go with the Packers, simply for the talent they have and the scheme they run. It fits those guys very, very well. Third, I'd go with the Vikings. And fourth, I'd go with the Lions. And for cornerbacks, I might sound a little bit of a homer, but I'm going to take the Lions here. Number 2, I'm going to go with the Packers. Third, I'm going to go with the Bears. Fourth, and I'm going to go with the Vikings. And then for safeties, I'm going to take the Vikings first, the Lions second, and then the Bears third. But once again, you could talk me out of that, and you could flip-flop those if you really wanted to. And the Packers is number 4. And I know you guys just said, Mike, you just waffle makered on the Bears and Lions safeties, but yeah, that one I'm not drawing a line in the sand, saying the Lions are head and shoulders above the Bears, because that one might be a real close one there. So once again, if you guys have if you guys want disagree with any of my takes, please feel free to do that. and hit me up on Twitter. I'll see what I can do about chatting with you guys. I know, like I said, I'm not looking for an all-day debate, something like that. And once again, I'm never one of those people. If you get in a debate, I'm not going to call you names or anything like that. I just don't do that. That's just not me. So, once again, I enjoyed coming to you here, talking to you guys. This Friday. I want everybody to enjoy their weekend. And like Derek always says, do you have anything else? Nope. I'm out. Everybody have a good weekend. We'll come at you next week again from the Detroit Koolaid. And once again, everybody, drink it in, man.
Pack the bag, start the plane. This game is over. It is over. What a comeback by the Lions.
Drink it in, man.